All right, guys, welcome back. We've got ourselves the next part of the unit that we've got today. And I will tell you, after this today, you will have your quiz for Unit 8 that you'll be working on for the next couple of days. But before we get to the quiz, let's take a look at the rest of the notes for this. Now, this is the rest of the notes on economic systems. I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to kind of come up with some of those utopian economies that you guys came up with. And we had a lot of great submissions. A lot of you guys are picking a lot of different parts of a lot of these economic systems that we've talked about, and even putting in a little bit of your own spin. So great job on those assignments, guys. If you have not gotten them turned in, make sure you get them turned in. But taking a look at this, compromise systems is where we're starting, because as we've talked about, and as we've probably experienced in the U.S., not all of these economic systems are going to be purely used, meaning we're not going to be purely capitalist, purely communist, purely socialist. All of those, we'll take what we like from each of those and sprinkle them into what we've got. And what we've got is a compromise system called a free market economy, because both market forces, as it says, those ones that we choose as the people who buy everything, and some government decisions are going to determine what the prices are and what goods are produced and how they're distributed. Now, the examples of the government setting them are those fiscal policies they have in terms of things like cigarette and gas. So cigarettes will have those taxes on them. They're generally going to be the same price in every single state you go to. There will be differences on the state taxes, but most of the time they'll be pretty similar. And the same thing with gas. There's generally going to be a set price for gas, and then your state and local taxes will then change the price. So here in South Carolina, we're generally one of the cheaper states, but if you go to places like California or New York, you'll realize that the gas is a lot more expensive in those states. And then if we flip it on the flip side, if you go to the Midwest, places like Iowa, Wisconsin, where there's not maybe as much going on, the price of gas is going to be a little cheaper in some of those places as well. So when we see that, we're just talking about fiscal policy there, and that's all we mean. So the elements we've got of our market economy is scarcity, and scarcity is just going to basically be the rarity of a resource or how much of it we can get. If we can't get something or we don't have access to a lot of a specific resource, the price will generally go up. If we do have a lot or we do have a surplus, then the price will generally go down. And that's really what you're seeing with gas right now. We've got a lot of gas. We're not using as much as we normally do. So there are surpluses. Well, if there's a surplus, generally the price will go down. And as we can see during this pandemic, it has. So that's how scarcity is going to play its role. And then supply and demand is very similar, but it's more on just the demand side that we'll talk about with that. And, again, when the public wants something, the businesses are going to say, well, what will you pay for it? And the price will go up. And if it's not selling and the businesses have a lot more of it, then the price will generally go down. And that's what we talk about when we're talking about supply and demand. Now, when it comes to the powers in a market economy, that's going to be the consumer and producer power. When it comes to the consumer power, as you can see, the consumers have the ultimate power, because if the consumers don't buy it, it doesn't matter what the producer thinks. The price has to go down, because if you're holding on to something and you have a lot of it and it's not selling, then you drop the price and you see what that price point needs to be for people to eventually buy it. Now, when it comes to the producer power, they do have power, but really their power is more going to be used in the advertising side and the marketing side, and being able to influence what us consumers think is a important thing to buy. So the thing I'll always come back to with this is, if you look at the iPhone versus the Android, the producers of the iPhone have done a great job at making everybody feel like the iPhone is the one phone that you need to have. So that's allowed them to charge a little bit more and allowed them to make a little bit more as we go. Now, if we look at the other elements of our market economy, the purchasing power is just the value of the money. So it's basically the value of our American dollar. With inflation is going to happen. When we've got inflation happening, you'll notice that the prices of goods are rising a little bit faster than maybe our salaries are. And when we have periods of inflation, it's going to feel like everything is expensive. And I say everything is expensive in the sense that it's expensive for how much money you have, not because you feel like paying $15 for a pizza is expensive. It's because you may not have $15 to spend on a pizza. You maybe were hoping to only spend 7 or 8. That's kind of what we're talking about with that expensive part. Transfer payments are going to be some government grants that are paid to citizens, and we generally know those a little bit more as is welfare, food stamps, and VA benefits. And then informed consumers must be in a market economy because we have to know what our rights are. We have to know what our privileges are. We have to know what we have the rights to complain about, what we don't have the rights to complain about, what we have the rights to buy, what we don't have the rights to buy. And when we are informed consumers and we're making those decisions with a correct mind, the system itself will let those inferior products kind of fall off to the side and be ones that we're not going to be selecting. Now, we look at these last 2 slides that we've got when it comes to the role of money. Money must be able to be divisible. And basically, it just means that's why we've got coins and we've got dollar bills, $5 bills, $10 bills, $20 bills. It just means if you give me a $20 bill, I can give you exact change. If money is not divisible, then it would mean that if you gave me a $20 bill, I would keep the $20 bill. And hopefully you're getting as much as you think you should be getting for that $20. Money must be durable, and our money is pretty durable, even though it's paper, but it can be given from one person to another. Now, we can do a lot digitally as well nowadays, but again, durability just means I should be able to give you the money, and then you should be able to take that money and give it to somebody else, who should be able to take that money and give it to somebody else. And then as we look at our money more, we see the store of value. Again, it can be reused after it's purchased. Just because you give me that $20 bill, that $20 bill is not no good now. It's still fine. I can still use it to go buy something else that I would like to buy. And that's all we mean when we talk about store of value. It doesn't lose value as it goes from person to person to person. And then the gold standard, that's something that was around when the nation was first founded. All of our nation's money was backed by gold. And it was basically saying, well, yes, this American $20 bill is worth something because that nation has a reserve of gold behind it. And worst case scenario, if we don't accept money anymore, they have gold to back up the value of the products and the money that they are giving. Now, what we have now, though, is what we call flat money. And that means we use the money in good faith, and we assume that the countries that are using the money and exchanging the money with us have the economy and the government that can back it up. Now, when it comes to the supply and demand of money, there is a lot that we'll see on this slide that I kind of want to talk about just mathematically. Now, with the discount rate, that is the rate charged to borrow from the government. Now, when I put it that way, banks do not get charged the same rates that we common citizens do. They get money a little bit cheaper than we do because they're going to then take that money and disperse it to everybody, and they're going to give it in the form of loans, mortgages, things like that. So the government is going to give them a little bit of a cheaper rate to borrow that money against than they will necessarily us common citizens. Now, that rate is called the federal rate. The federal rate. You may hear a lot talking about that when we talk about the economy, we talk about stocks. When we talk about that federal rate, again, that's that rate at which the banks can borrow in excess of their reserves of other banks. Now, when it comes to the reserve requirement, that's the percent of the deposits that must be kept on reserve. And as you can see written there, if the reserve requirement is 20%, and it does change from time to time, but we're just going to use that 20% number as a nice, easy number to use. If you deposit $100 in the bank does not have to keep that $100 in their vaults all the time. They have to keep the reserve requirement. So if it's 20%, they just have to keep $20 on site of that $100 that you've given them. They can use the other $80 to give out to other people or to do with it what they please. Now, the money multiplier works with that reserve requirement because, again, that's how much of the money that banks have that they can lend out to then charge interest on and make some money themselves for the money that they've been given. So, again, if it's at 20% again, we notice it's 1 over 0.2. That means if we divide that, we get 5. And all that 5 means is that means banks can make 5 times the money that they get on your deposits. So if you deposit $100 in the bank will be able to make $500 off of that by giving it out, loaning it, and charging interest to other people or other entities that they choose to hand it out to. Now, with that, that is going to bring us to the end of this one. Let me just bring up, actually, I don't even need to bring it up because we'll post it in the Google Classroom. But let's see. I'm going to bring up a quick life happens. We'll get 3 people from period 1 and 4 from period 2. Again, you'll see your grades will be updated, so make sure to double check those and let me know if you see anything that you think is maybe a little off. But with that, let me get on over to our good old Mimic. And we will get Life Happens out of the way and then on to tomorrow. Oh, excuse me. You will have a couple of days to get this assignment due. It will not be, excuse me. It will not be due until Wednesday at midnight. And with that, I will give you a couple of days to get that done. So we will not have an assignment tomorrow. You won't see any videos tomorrow. So when we come back on Wednesday, that will be the next time we'll see Life Happens. And when we get on to the next part of this unit. Now let me pull up Life Happens, make sure that we are good to go here. Everything looking good. So here we go, starting a new game this week. So we got 3 people here from period 1. First one up, Ryan. And Ryan, stock option matured, $200 to your checking account. Good way to start the week. Next one up is Andrew, the joy of giving, $500 to your checking account. You do have a redraw, so we'll give you that one. And Pink Eye is the worst, $75 for Pink Eye. A little bit better than $500 though, so we'll give you that one. And last one, CJ for today. Go Speed Racer Go. I'm sure you would never do this, or at the very least, you would tell that cop you are definitely an honors student who would never do this again, but got caught doing 60 in a 25, and that's going to be $100 out of your checking account. And now on to period 2. That is the 3 people for period 1 today. Now getting to period 2, starting this one over. We got 4 people in this one today. This kid is the first one up, and this kid doing a little bit of a speed racer as well. Probably going to try to use that same nice little excuse to get out of that one. Honor student, I swear. John Cromwell going on a road trip. $500 from your checking account. No redraw, so we're going to accept that one. Hudson, you are up next. And Hudson getting a matured stock option as well. Looking like we're having some repeats here. And then last but not least for today, Andrew going to mow the lawn. $350 for a new lawnmower. So that'll be it for today. Make sure you check out the assignment that is going to be posted in Google Classroom. Again, that will be a quiz grade. You cannot use Mimic for that one. And make sure you get that one turned in on time. See you guys tomorrow. Or should I say Wednesday.